Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about midlife crisis. Now, this is normally something that comes up in media, movies, and it's played as a joke. It's made fun of. But in reality, midlife crisis is no joke. When a person goes through a midlife crisis, it can do a lot of damage. It can cause a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. It can break up families. It can break up relationships. It can cause financial devastation. So, where does it start? A lot of this can be rooted in any kind of childhood pain that we've experienced. And a lot of this childhood pain we think we have dealt with. And you may go on for 40 some years being highly functional, and that childhood pain may emerge suddenly out of the blue. There's a pattern to the midlife crisis. If you're ever wondering if you are having a midlife crisis, there is a specific pattern that happens when people are going through this. So it usually starts around maybe 38, between 38 and 65. So it's quite a range of age that someone can have a midlife crisis. But between the ages of 38 and 65, that's when our parents start to age. And that's when you may lose a parent, or the parent gets sick, or you may lose a grandparent that felt like a parent to you. And when this happens, when we experience the loss or the death of a loved one, or the near death of them if they get sick, it triggers a stress response in our nervous system. And it sort of puts you in a permanent state of fight or flight. And your body can start to panic. You might be having aches and pains around this age as well. So then you start to think about your own mortality. You start to think, one day you're going to die. And then you start to think, what have I been doing with my life? And that's when you begin to question every decision you've ever made in your life. And this is the beginning of the crisis. Now, this crisis can lead to you questioning every decision in your life, and including questioning your relationship with your partner. And that's when also there may be a lot of blaming coming up. There may be a lot of anger, a lot of repressed resentment. All of a sudden now the floodgates are open. The anger, the resentment, it's all coming through. Everything you never said, everything you suppressed or didn't do for your partner, it all comes flooding out. And you may withdraw, and you may find an affair partner. And not only do you may find an affair partner, you may believe this affair partner is now your soulmate. And now you've gotten into limerence. And limerence is a very strong infatuation with someone, where they are the exact opposite of your current partner. They maybe are younger, maybe they are different color, hair, shape, size. You'll be surprised exactly how opposite they are. They may be opposite in personality. They may be opposite in every single way you can think of. Because now your mind has switched from preferring one perception to now despising that perception, despising those traits, and now you become infatuated with its opposite. And there's one more thing that happens during a midlife crisis, and this very strong polarized mindset, polarized perception begins happening, where everything becomes all or nothing. Everything becomes love and hate. And not only that, it can switch. It'll switch from I love this and I hate this, and then it'll switch back. So now you've got this bipolar type of perception happening where you can't even trust your own opinion. You can't even trust your own feelings, your own perception. And this is when you are deep, deep in crisis. And this is not the time to be making any type of life-changing decisions. This is not the time to be divorcing or getting married. This is not the time to be selling your house. This is not the time to be moving away, because your perception is so polarized. Will see only the positives and it will be completely blind to the negatives. Or it will see only the negatives and be completely blind to the positives. And if you make a decision while you're in this highly polarized state of mind, you will regret the decision because you're not in a balanced, poised, fully aware state of mind. It's not the time to run off and get married, and it's not the time to have a baby. These are all things that happen during a midlife crisis. So that's a lot. That's a lot to take in. But the number one thing to learn, the number one thing to realize is that this is a specific pattern, and this is not unique to you. This happens over and over and over every single day. It's happening now to people all across the world where they reach a certain age, their parents or themselves start to get sick, or their grandparents, someone passes away, and they have this existential crisis. Their body goes into fight or flight, and their perception becomes highly polarized, and they start making drastic decisions, drastic changes. That's a pattern, and it happens over and over again, and it's predictable. Now, people can stay stuck in this pattern. They can first do a lot of damage from this bipolar sort of state of mind. Financial damage, relationship damage, damage with children, break apart their family, all kinds of stuff. Then 7, 8, 10 years later, they spend the next 10 years repairing, picking up the pieces, and going through turmoil, if they survive the midlife crisis, because they don't always make it through the damage that they've created. Some people get overtaken by the shame and the hurt that they've caused others, and that's when they end it. The polarization also comes on yourself at some point, where a person can get into deep, deep, deep shame where they don't want to live any longer. And this is another part, and it's just part of the midlife crisis. And if you are in that state of deep, deep shame, that is the time to get help, to call a friend, to call the crisis line, to talk to somebody so they can talk you out of this shame, because getting yourself out of that shame is nearly impossible. You need somebody to draw you up out of the shame. And when you let go of that shame, when you release that shame, you will see that you are just a person who just always wanted to be loved. You were just trying to be loved. You were just trying to get your needs met. You were just trying to do your best. And that's it. That's what you were doing. And in that attempt to take care of yourself, in that attempt to be in alignment with yourself, you made choices out of desperation. Okay, so these choices were made out of desperation. They were made out of a bipolar state, a temporary bipolar state of mind. So keep this in mind. It's not the time to make decisions. It's not the time to do anything drastic. But it is the time to look within. It is the time to get back in touch with yourself, with who you are. It is the time for a change, for some type of change. That's another feeling when someone's in a midlife crisis. There is such a strong feeling for change. The ability to take action is immense. A person can take so much action from this state of mind. Not necessarily the right action. Their tolerance for risk is really, really high. So it's time to calm down, get back in touch, and cool down your nervous system. It's time to start relaxing again and not making any decisions out of excitement. So if you are in a high state of excitement, you cannot trust that decision. If you are in a very low state of guilt or shame, you can't trust that decision either. It's too polarized. It's not balanced. You're not seeing the full picture. You're not seeing the entire impact on yourself and on others, and you're not seeing all the benefits, and you're not seeing all the drawbacks. So midlife crisis is a serious thing. It's not just buying a red sports car. So if you are having an affair, or you have an affair partner, and you are infatuated with that person, and you think they're your soulmate, and this is going to be it's going to be extremely challenging for you to heal your current relationship, and it's not a great foundation for a future relationship. So both are likely to fail. But if you can get more grounded, if you can bring yourself back into balance and get reconnected with yourself, you will be able to make the best decision. You will be able to make a decision based in full awareness and a full understanding. A decision that you won't regret, that is in alignment with you. So sometimes it's the childhood trauma that needs to be dealt with. Sometimes it's just the purpose. A person's purpose needs to get sorted out. You may have been living out of alignment for several years. You may have been in a career that you despised for several years. You may not have been contributing and doing the things that you love. And this crisis now becomes an opportunity. So now you can find yourself in a midlife opportunity. Once you start to get reconnected with who you are, what you want, what your purpose and what your mission in life is, then you can begin acting on that, acting on the true aligned mission and purpose, and start becoming who you would love to become. And you don't need another person for you to become who you want to become. A common thing that happens during midlife crisis is a male may want to spend time with a younger woman. And now he gets to become the teacher. He gets to become the mentor. And even if this relationship isn't sexual in nature, he is still having an emotional affair with that person. And it's not really about that person. It's about who he gets to be in the presence of that person. But he doesn't need that person to begin his life as a mentor, as a teacher. He can start to embody that anywhere. He can start to become a mentor and a teacher everywhere he goes. He just needs to choose to own that and choose to become that. Now, another thing that comes with the limerence, other than the infatuation, is there may be a grief involved, especially if the affair ends and the person is still highly infatuated. Now there's another problem to deal with, which is a very deep grief, a deep sense of loss, a deep obsession, or a feeling that something is missing. And again, this is based off a polarized perception of all or nothing. So, how do we deal with these highly stressed emotional feelings? How do we deal with these polarized perceptions? The first thing to do is to begin to regulate your nervous system, regulate your body, and just allow yourself to start relaxing. And you may need to do deep breathing to get your body, your nervous system, to begin to relax. You may need to do EFT tapping, where you are tapping your body on the various pressure points and you begin to relax your body with the EFT tapping. And that just puts you back present into your body. You can use mindfulness, which is just putting your attention on your body. Stay connected to your body instead of allowing yourself to run into these imaginary thought worlds. So that's just step one. It's just start to regulate your nervous system. Next, you'll want to begin to feel and release a lot of this emotion. Now the floodgates are open and you can start to try to suppress a lot of this emotion. A lot of people who are in a midlife crisis may start drinking really heavily. So if that is happening, that's just them trying to suppress this floodgate of emotion. So allow yourself to feel and then let go. Allow yourself to feel and then let go. Okay. And the next thing that will happen, this people usually need coaching for this, is to rebalance the perception. If you see all positives, you have to start finding the negatives in that person. So if you're infatuated with someone, you see 50 or 100 positives and maybe 5 negatives. Now that ratio of perception is completely imbalanced and unrealistic. So start to look for more downsides. Start to look for the drawbacks, the challenges, the disservice. How is it a disservice to you? And with this other person, maybe your spouse, you may see 100 drawbacks, 100 downsides, 100 traits you despise about that person. Now you have to go in and begin looking for the benefits, the positives, the traits you actually admire, and begin to bring things back into a balanced perception. And if a person is missing, if something is missing, now you can start to find out, where else around me can I find those parts of that person? If you miss the beauty, where else in your world is beauty? And if you miss the encouraging words, where else in your world are you perceiving encouragement? So this is all part of something I teach, and when I coach someone, I use something called the DeMartini method. And it's a specific process that helps to balance emotions, perceptions, and emotions. And when you bring yourself back into balance, that is when you begin to feel peace again. And without balance, you're going to be in a perpetual state of stress. It'll be stress of wanting something positive and it not being there, or trying to get away from something negative and it being there. So you're always in this loop, trying to chase things that are around you. You're trying to bring yourself internal peace by changing what's outside of you. And that's never going to work. You need to work on what's inside of you, what is happening inside of you, so that you can be at peace no matter what is happening on the outside. And you're no longer letting your environment dictate your state of being. You begin to choose who you get to be. You get to choose how you feel and what you perceive and who you want to be. And that's where that's the real end goal, and that's the real purpose and why this whole midlife crisis occurred. It's because now you get to recreate yourself. Now you get to decide, who do I want to be, and start creating that. And now you've got the courage to begin to take action. And if you continue to work with a coach such as myself, you will learn to overcome the fears, the challenges, the obstacles, all of the emotional barriers that happen as a person goes after a goal, goes after a mission. There's always going to be something getting in the way, an emotion. So we don't avoid people, places, or things. We avoid feelings. So if we're ever procrastinating on a goal, on taking an action, it's because we're avoiding the feeling that we're expecting from that action. If we don't like public speaking, it's not the speaking in public that we're avoiding, it's avoiding the feeling that we have in front of the people. And these are all barriers that can be removed, that can be cleared. Okay. So I teach people how to now gain control of their feelings, how to gain control of their emotions, and how to become centered no matter what they're doing, to become at peace no matter what other people are saying, no matter what other people are doing, no matter how they're acting, and focus more, to teach them to focus on what they think, what they feel, what they do, and to get in alignment with who they really are, what their mission is, and what their purpose is in this life. So that when you are on that deathbed, when you are old and you're looking back on your life, you will not live with regret. You will know that fear did not defeat you, that overanalyzing did not defeat you, that self-criticism did not defeat you, or shame, that you learned how to deal with those emotions so that you could consistently take action, so that you could create a plan, so you could act on that plan. You can reiterate, you can innovate, you can try and try and try until you achieve what it was you wanted to achieve. And you can make the impact that you wanted to make in this world. If you do need support navigating midlife crisis or just getting in alignment with your purpose, then visit my website, spencelifecoaching.com, and enjoy the next podcast. Keep listening, subscribe to unlockingpotential.com. Talk to you later.